so happens to be cocktail hour. And rather than run back and forth to the boat all the time, I figured I might as well just kind of bring the fixins with me here. So I did. My mother told me a story. Now, she might have been fibbing, but she told me my pediatrician's name was Bacardi. And perhaps that's why I have such a fondness. I'm sure there's a Dr. Bacardi somewhere. Maybe. I think he's been looking after me for a long time. There we go. Just a little at a time. Put this bad boy back here, like that. Don't drop the bottle. It's the only one you got. That's always the big rules. Very important. Don't drop the bottle. It's the only one you got. There we go. It is now 11 o'clock. Still just motoring along. Just south of the Watcher Islands, northwest of Giant's Tomb. Unfortunately, couldn't really get to sail. Kind of hoping that I can catch up to Bill Lougheed this weekend. He's the executive director of the Georgian Bay Land Trust, and seems to be a bit of a mastermind at putting together some great environmental protection for different properties. I believe it was this winter, might have been last fall, but recently, that's the best thing, recently, Bill was able to put together a conservation easement, I believe it's called, with the folks at Tadnak. And it's something in the neighborhood. I'm probably going to be wrong. I should really have read my notes first. But it's something in the neighborhood of 5,000 acres where this easement has been put into place. And an easement, see if I can explain this right. An easement is where the property owner retains ownership of the property, but the land trust, Georgian Bay Land Trust, takes environmental control of the property and stewards it, and if they can correct what needs correcting, I suppose, from a human standpoint, if they find different things kicking around. There's certainly advantages for the land owners, aside from just the environmental standpoint. As I understand, this particular piece of property is home to Algonquin wolves, among others, and there's a great deal of this piece of property that hasn't seen human activity for over 100 years. So think about that. Over 100 years, nobody's been there. And Bill Lougheed was able to negotiate this package with the folks at Tadnak. They obviously have great interest in preserving the nature that they own. And it's a huge milestone. And, good for Bill for putting this one together. This is an enormous piece of property on the shores of Georgian Bay. I believe it was last year, the year before last, he was also able to put together, or negotiate rather, a great package up at Tugboat Channel going into Point Barrow. I can't remember how many 1,000 feet of shoreline. A lot. Everybody goes by. If they have a boat, everybody knows where it is. Just got to check to see where I'm going here. Oh, I'm still right on line. Not even lost. And Bill was able to put in place a proper land preserve agreement. I'm not sure that it's an easement or not, but again, huge stretch of property, very important piece of property for all of us that live on Georgian Bay and enjoy look at it here. This is just stupendous. No kidding. I don't care about not sailing. And a lot of this we have to thank very, very well, and looking out for the well-being of this unbelievable place we call. Okay, so told you about Wabano a couple of weeks ago, and what kind of an effect that seemed to have. It was pretty devastating. Certainly one of the most famous wrecks going. I'm going to tell you about the Alice Hackett. The Alice Hackett is kind of technically registered as the very first wreck of Georgian Bay. And a bit of a funny story. Involves one of my favorite things, beverage alcohol. Alice Hackett, I'll back up a little bit here. After the War of 1812, the only portion of the border between Canada and the US that changed was Drummond Island. After all that fighting and all that starving, and guys were actually getting malaria, all the horrible stuff. Drummond Island. Like, why the hell Drummond Island? Anyways, regardless, the British from Penetanguishene, or where Discovery Harbor is now, as a matter of fact, sent a boat up to take all the folks off Drummond Island that wanted to go. And so off they go, and they go up to Drummond Island, and the commander of the ship gets off the ship and gets all the village people together and the farmers and whatnot, and says, okay, so after this stupid war, the only place that actually changed hand is Drummond Island. So those that wish to stay in Canada, we will put you on this boat and take you down to Penetang and down to what they used to call the Plains of LaFontaine, which is kind of cool. Anyways, to their surprise, everybody wanted to go. And they couldn't put the militia and all the people and the animals and on and on and on onto the boat. So that boat came back down to Penetang, and in the words of the British, they commissioned a ship called the Alice Hackett. Now, the owner of the Alice Hackett just happened to be a Mr. Hackett, so it was more of a commandeering than a commission. Anyways, off he goes. The British were paying him some nominal fee, and he goes up to Drummond Island to pick up the rest of the folks. So this is about 1828. So the war had been over for almost 15 years already. 15? Yeah, close to 15, 14 years. So off he goes. He's up there. He's picking up the rest of the folks, and there's a few village people. There's one of the farmers there. The fellow's name was Lepine, and he was able to bring his livestock with him, and he had goats and pigs, chickens, a couple of cows, and a team of horses. And they're stuffing all this stuff on a boat. And the balance of the militia that was up there came. And lucky for the crew, as it turned out, the tavern keeper was on the Alice Hackett. He was some of the last folks to get on rather. And just so happened that he had 13 or 14 barrels of whiskey with him in order to start his new tavern business in Penetang. So everybody and everything gets loaded on this boat, and off they go. And everybody's so happy that they kind of crack open a barrel of whiskey. And then another one. And before you know it, the crew is biffed. These guys are just having a grand old time. And of course, your responsibility level seems to drop a little the more you have to drink. Therefore, they hit ground just south of Fitzwilliam Island. And naturally in a big storm in November, the same as all the rest of the wrecks around here. And the crew and most of the passengers got off the boat. They were really, really close to this, what they at that time called a big rock. And they all walked over and swam over to this big rock, and the storm's howling, and the snow's coming, and the waves are breaking over the thing. And they sat on the shore and remembered that they'd forgotten the women and children. So a few of them that were still sober enough went back out to the Alice Hackett, grabbed a whole bunch of women and children, and went back to what they called the rock. But they forgot Lepine's wife, of all people. Uh, and she was obviously a pretty smart lady. She knew that these drunkards weren't going to come and save her. She had a very, very small child, like an infant sort of thing with her. And she wrapped the infant in a blanket and then tied the blanket around her so the baby was on her back. And then she went forward and tied herself to the mast of the boat, which was beaten against the rocks, and stood there all night long in this big storm, getting snowed on and rained on and waves beating on her and all that kind of stuff. And in the morning, when the crew sobered up, they realized that Rapine, oops, you forgot your wife. Now, of course, modern days, we're talking about divorce courts here. Anyways, he goes out and gets his wife, gets his child. They sit on this rock for, close to a week before they're kind of picked up. Somebody realized they're gone, they're done. And when they were leaving after their rescue, they noticed a horse walking around the rock. So they called the rock Horse Island. And you can still find Horse Island on the charts up near Fitzwilliam Island.